Hello, welcome to this new episode on the laws of cricket. To continue our discussion, we are starting with Law 1, the player, today. This law tells us the obvious to begin with, that each match is played between two sides and that a side shall have 11 players. But it also tells us that both the sides are free to agree to play with less than or more than 11 players. If I am going on a visit to a nearby town and I am carrying 15 players, I want everybody to participate in the game. Nobody likes to sit on the bench. I make a request to the opposing captain, look, can you field 15 so that everybody gets to all my people get to play? He'll agree. So it will be 15 aside. It could be 6 aside. It could be 8 aside, whatever. The law is very flexible. It allows the two teams to do whatever they want to do. But it is rigid about one particular thing, that not more than 11 players shall field on the field at any one time. Therefore, whenever the two umpires come out to take the field, they should check that not more than 11 are there on the field of play. Otherwise, they can play with any number of players. Now, it also can happen, the law tells us, that if you have agreed to start with, say, a certain number of players, say 11, which is normal, and due to injury, illness, absenteeism, or suspension, that number falls short, the match will not stop. It will continue. It will continue. Say, for example, 5 players were sharing a vehicle and coming to the game on the second day, and they failed to arrive in time. There are only 6 players here. Now the match will continue with 6 players. It will continue as long as no law or no playing condition or a rule agreed between the two sides is violated. For example, limited over matches have a rule that each bowler shall bowl not more than 1/5 the number of overs. Now till that rule is violated, the match can go on. Not violated, the match can go on. Once it happens that in order to continue the game, they don't have enough bowlers. Now he is required to bowl the 11th over. No. When it is not, then in that case it is not possible for them to continue with the game. The match will come to an end, and naturally the side which has cannot continue with the game loses the match, forfeits the match. This is what it tells us. Now, as regards nomination and replacement, Law 1.2 talks about nomination and replacement of players. The nomination of the players, the team list, it has to be done by the captain to one of the umpires. It should be done in writing to one of the umpires, and it should be done before the toss. Time frame is that before the toss it should be done in writing and do it. But the law allows some flexibility here about who is to make the nomination. The laws allow that anybody associated with the team can come forward and make the nomination. Say for instance, the team coach team bus hasn't arrived at the ground yet, and it is about half an hour away, and the manager who is already here or the coach who is already here makes the nomination. He is allowed to do it. It is a legal nomination, and certainly if the captain, when he comes and tells us, no, this is not the team I wanted, and he will have to put up with it, grin and bear it. That is all I can tell that captain. As regards the one more point about the nomination is that the nomination is a complete act in itself. The connection with the action of toss is only as regards when the nomination will be done, before the toss. Otherwise, these two actions are not connected in any way. At one time, the notion was that the toss puts the seal on the nomination. That is not so. The act of nomination is a complete action in itself, and once the nomination is done, if there is any change to be in that list, the consent of the opposing captain is required for making that change. That is a replacement. Alright? Now the replacement can be in the beginning or it can be later on during the game, necessitated by illness, injury or whatever, again with the consent of the opposite captain. There are certain rules about replacement which I must tell you about. One is that he will be treated as the same player as who he has replaced. We do not have a principle in the laws of like for like and all that. Any player can think, oh, this man replaces this, is perfectly all right. And the replacement is allowed to bat only if the other player, the original player, are either not batted, not completed his innings, is not batted at all, or he has got an incomplete innings. Like for example that he has retired hurt and therefore needed to be replaced. In that case, the new man can come and continue the innings. So it will be actually two batters, different batters who will be playing one innings. So one batter scored 35 and the other finishes the century. It can very well happen that way. And also it is reiterated in the laws that if the replacement player shall carry the same penalties and suspensions which the original player might have carried. It could very well be that the suspended player had 30 minutes playing penalty time to serve. The replacement player will have to bear the burden. So also for suspension, he is undergone 5 over suspension. 10 over suspension is imposed on him. He is undergone 5 and the remaining 5 will be the other guy can't take the field. This is as regards the nomination and replacement of players is concerned. Alright. To continue with our discussion, now coming to law 1.3, the captain. The law says that if the captain is not available at any time, a deputy shall act for him, and a nominee, a deputy has to be, after the nomination, has to be one of the 11 players. The only concession is for the nomination, somebody outside the 11 can do it. Even the toss has to be, after the nomination, even the toss has to be done by one of the nominated players. He can send a deputy, there is a guy who he thinks is lucky for him for doing the toss. One of the 11 can come and do it. That is permitted. And therefore it also follows that a substitute who has entered the field of play for whatever reason cannot act as a captain. He cannot take over the mantle of the captain. You will not allow that to happen. You as umpire will not allow that to happen. That is your responsibility to see. Then coming to law 1.4, responsibility of the captain. As we saw in the preamble, the responsibility of the captain is very clearly laid down. The same thing is reiterated here, that at all times the captains are responsible for ensuring that play is conducted within the spirit as well as within the laws of the game. As we go along, we will see that whenever the team is acted against for any violation of any of the laws, the captain cannot escape his responsibility that he wasn't there or he wasn't present. He will have to bear the burden. Now that brings us to the end of law 1. Thank you.